Hey guys, tonight we're trading tick-tock scrolls for papyrus scrolls, sinking into the syrupy heat of Egypt's 18th dynasty. Picture this: your fingernails packed with Nile mud long before gel manicures existed. Historians confirm Hatshepsut actually had a personal sandal-bearer, but they're split on whether the job came with dental. Heads up if you get squeamish about parent taxes paid in children. Maybe grab a stress ball or a chalice of honeyed milk. Your call. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and current moon phase. I heard Memphis, Egypt had killer sunsets back in 1478 BCE. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your knees sink into riverbank silt. Each reed basket you weave feels like threading the same cursed straw forever. 8 years old, and already your hands know the sticky language of damp papyrus. Across the water, Thebes shimmers like a mirage, white walls topped with gold cobras that mock your mud-crusted toes. A shadow blocks the sun. Death's dew grunts a guard whose breath smells of onions and authority. You don't look up, just keep twisting reeds into squares. But his spear taps your father's shoulder, and suddenly you're measuring life in heartbeats. Take the boy, the guard says. Fun fact: Nile mud taxes were real, paid in crops, livestock, or, well, kids. Your linen wrap scratches as they drag you past startled ibises. One feather floats down, a useless goodbye gift. The palace isn't what you imagined. No glittering pools or lion statues, just a maze of servants' corridors smelling of sour beer. Kneel, someone hisses. You press your forehead to cool stone. A queen's sandal enters your vision. Carved amethyst scarabs glint on its straps. Hatshepsut's voice cuts the air. This one's hands look steady. You bite your tongue so hard copper floods your mouth. Quirky tidbit: they used crocodile dung as sunscreen back then. Smelled worse than a farmer's sandals after flood season. A snapped strap hits your cheek. Fix it, a priest commands. Your fingers fumble with gold thread, too thick, too alien compared to river reeds. But the queen watches, always watches. When you knot the final stitch, she nods, a tiny dip of her double crown. They dunk you in lotus-scented water after that. Servants scrub your skin raw while muttering about fleas. Your old life floats away, baskets, mud-stained toes, even your father's face, all dissolving like salt in broth. Historians still argue whether child laborers built her temples or just farmed wheat. I'd vote temples. Kids have that endless energy thing right. Night falls. You're given a straw mat and a warning: touch nothing but souls. The corridor hums with whispers. Somewhere, a drunk guard laughs. You curl around hunger pains, stomach growling like a trapped jackal. The sandals rest beside you, their jewels throwing moonlit serpents on the walls. Sleep comes in scraps. Dawn arrives with a kick. Polish till you see your face in the garnets. A woman barks. You rub oxblood dye into leather, hands staining the same shade as the Nile's flood season. The queen passes once, her perfume lingering long after. It smells like myrrh and something sharper power, maybe, or perhaps just really old lotus wine. By midday, your fingers cramp. A slave girl slips you a date, sticky sweetness that makes your eyes burn. She disappears before you can ask her name. The sandals demand attention, always. You learn their weight, their grooves, the way light bends around each amethyst beetle. When drums announce evening prayers, you realize something terrible. You haven't thought of the river once. The guard from Thebes finds you later. Miss the stink of home? He laughs, tossing a reed fragment at your feet. It's dyed royal blue, a color your father could never afford. You crush it under your heel, smiling for the first time in days. The taste of dates still lingers somewhere beyond these walls. The Nile keeps rushing. But here, in this gilded cage of sandalwood and secrets, you're learning a new truth. Even servants cast shadows. The queen's sandals gleam in their ebony box now, resting until dawn. You trace a scarab's wings, wondering if beetles ever tire of carrying the sun. Your fingernails, once caked in mud, shine with stolen flecks of gold. A frog croaks in some unseen courtyard. You count its calls like prayer beads, 37, before footsteps interrupt. Another day, another strap to mend, another breath drawn in the perfume-soaked dark. The guard's onion breath returns at midnight. New lesson, he says, dropping a pile of leather strips. Left foot first, always. You reach for the closest strap, hands steady, heart not. Somewhere, a child weeps. It takes 7 stitches before you realize the sounds coming from you. The reed grass still clings between your toes when they drag you to Thebes. Your father's withered face shrinking behind chariot dust. Palace walls tower like stacked sun discs, each limestone block heavier than your 8-year-old shoulders. You learn 3 truths that first month. Lotus oil rots in clay jars. Eunuchs laugh sharp as shaved copper. And royal feet stink of frankincense sweat. Your days blur into polishing amulet clasps for lesser servants until the Hatshepsut festival. 70,000 Egyptians cram the avenue, cheers rolling like Nile floodwater as Hatshepsut's litter approaches. Historians still argue whether her famous beard was glued with tamarind resin or gazelle marrow. But you smell the pine tar from 10 cubits away. A sandal strap snaps mid-step, carved obsidian cobras clattering across limestone. Silence swallows the crowd. The regent's bare foot hovers, painted soles gleaming with electrum leaf. You dive before realizing your hands moved, the broken straps, leather still warm from her skin. Some claim Hatshepsut kept 7 dwarves as living footstools, but her snort echoes differently when you mumble. Thy heel outshines Ra's bark. This one, she declares, your chin jerked upward by her fly whisk. Up close, the Pharaoh smells of desert ironwood and something darker, myrrh fermenting under noon sun. Her kohl-rimmed eyes narrow, spotting river mud still caked under your thumbnail. 10 lashes for presumption, then train it. The whip's kiss etches loyalty deeper than any oath. By harvest season, you memorize her soles. Every scar 2 crescent marks from a long-dead leopard, a burn shaped like cypress. Calluses thicker than Memphis honeycomb. Nightly, you rub them with salt from Siwa's caves, the only abrasive fine enough for godflesh. When viziers protest your youth, Hatshepsut silences them with a lifted toe. Sandals are politics, she murmurs, tracing a map of Nubia on your palm. Mine shall never blister. One midnight, you find her pacing the mortuary temple, blueprints clutched in ink-stained hands. Workers haul cedar beams for her grandest trick, a terraced wonder stacked like lotus petals. She tests a new sandal design on your arm, obsidian beads biting flesh. They say I steal Thutmose's throne, she hisses, not to you, but to the shadows. Wait till they see what I steal from the cliffs. The desert wind carries architect's curses from Deir el-Bahari, and your quiet gasp as she gifts you a stolen chisel. Its edge gleams sharper than any truth you'll ever tell. The stolen chisel warms under your mat, its edge wrapped in palm fiber like a sleeping asp. Dawn finds you rubbing myrrh into oxhide soles, each bead of resin a tiny amber sun. Court protocol demands 7 polishes with linen, 77 with papyrus, and a final buffing using owl feathers plucked during Wadjet festivals. Your thumbs learn the queen's arches better than your own mother's face, the left sole slightly raised from years of striding, past kneeling men. Eunuchs slip through beaded curtains at dusk, their oiled whispers slithering over your workspace. The sandal boy smells of Delta swine, one hisses, dangling a lotus garland just beyond reach. You rub harder, letting the sharp reek of natron salt choke your retort. Modern perfumers would kill for Hatshepsut's foot ointment recipe, cinnamon, crushed lapis, and that unlabeled black oil smelling of Memphis' deepest tombs. Midnight brings the queen's summons. You enter her chamber backward, forehead brushing tiles painted with 9 bound captives. Her feet prop on a golden Syrian, though historians still debate if those footrests were slaves or sacred dwarves. Hatshepsut's big toe rings glint as she flexes them, testing straps you oiled with hippo fat. They say you stole a mason's tool, she murmurs, voice sweet as date wine left to sour. Your saliva turns to desert sand. Some claim the royal manicurist disappeared after misplacing a nail file, but you keep still as a Shabti statue. Good, she snorts, tossing you a carnelian-handled awl. Thieves make better listeners. The next fortnight drowns in scent. Juniper oil stings your hangnails. Frankincense smokes blue in dawn's chill. And that mysterious black unguent leaves your fingertips permanently stained. You discover why Hatshepsut's sandals never blister, each layer tanned with urine from Nubian infants. At least, that's what the laundresses cackle while scrubbing loincloths. You pray they're wrong, but start washing your hands in onion juice, just in case. A sandstorm traps you in the oil storeroom with Neferir's pet baboon. Its amber eyes track your work, clacking teeth when you mislabel a jar of ibex tallow. Later, you'll learn temple baboons could read hieroglyphs. But tonight, it's just you and 18 jars of rancid lard. The queen finds you retching into a cedar bucket. Her laughter echoes off alabaster jars, a sound drier than mummy wrappings. The nose adjusts, she says, splashing your face with liquid that reeks of fermented figs. By the third moon, you master the midnight polish kneeling where torchlight best reveals scuff marks. Viziers slither past with offers. A bronze blade for the queen's step measurements, one offers, dangling a dagger forged in red genu. You mimic Hatshepsut's iciest glare, learned from polishing her toenails during diplomatic snubs. The dagger vanishes, along with the vizier's braid tip, when guards drag him out. Sleep comes in stolen drips, head pillowed on unused linen bandages. One night, a giggle wakes you. Princess Neferir perches on your workbench, bare toes dangling above your best crocodile skin sandals. Mother says you taste fear like wine, she whispers, dipping a toe in your unfinished mint soak. Her heels still dimpled from childhood, yet the arch mirrors Hatshepsut's perfectly. You bow too low, knocking over a jar of scarab shell polish. The crash summons Medjay guards. Neferir's smirk says everything. Royalty plays chess, while servants sweep up pawns. You spend the final watch hours scrubbing indigo stains from limestone and wondering if the princess' smirk matched her mother's at age 8. Dawn's first light reveals a palm-sized alabaster jar by your mat. Inside glistens green gold, Tyre's legendary murex, dye worth 10 donkeys. No note accompanies it, just a single sandstone flake shaped like cypress clinging to the lid. You tuck it under your loincloth, next to the still unused chisel. Some gifts cut deeper than whips. The queen enters as you're buffing her ceremonial sandals, obsidian beads reflecting her storm cloud expression. Today's procession celebrates a new canal, or maybe another executed governor. She extends a foot without looking, ringed toes grazing your trachea. You cinch the ankle straps just shy of painful, the exact tightness she prefers before public speeches. Her hand brushes your nape, calluses catching on sweat-soaked hair. They're waiting to watch me trip, she murmurs too softly for even the wall's carved ears. You press the sandal's insole, secretly reinforced with gazelle sinew. The corner of her mouth twitches, almost a smile. Almost, as she strides towards sunlight and cheers, you clutch the empty dye jar. Palace life tastes like myrrh and onion juice now, but under your nails, the Nile's silt still lingers. The garnet dye won't scrub out. Your knuckles bleed into the leather, each crimson swirl, mocking the eternal lotus patterns you stitched last flood season. Hatshepsut's coronation sandals luxuriate in their filth, their jeweled straps caked with something thicker than pomegranate syrup. royal cobblers used to whisper about the red curring, how new pharaohs walked through enemies' blood to consecrate their souls. You always thought it metaphor, until tonight. Distant cheers seep through palace walls. Hatshepsut's crowning feast approaches its 14th hour. Your bronze scraper shudders against a half-dried clot, revealing a sliver of blue faience. Temple mosaics show smiting rituals with maces, but real power leaves evidence in shoe treads. Historians will later find deposit records for 500 red linen kilts, still debating whether they clothed soldiers, sacrifices, or overly ambitious bakers. A eunuch slams an amphora of leek vinegar by your stool, the stench dissolving your last supper. Her Majesty desires these by the third night watch. He sneers, kicking aside your bucket. You count 7 different blood types in the splatter pattern, a skill learned from Delta butchers. One stain smells of thyme and burnt copper. The preferred talc of almonds, disgraced high priest. You dunk the left sandal too fast, and red plumes bloom like Nilotic lilies. Coronation Day began with Hatshepsut's sandals pristine white leather, symbolizing her virgin reign. By midday, they darkened to match the deseret, her path from throne to altar paved with unexpected descent. That peasant revolt theory academics love. Your blistered palms suggest otherwise. Crickets replace celebrants as moonrise silences the courtyards. A familiar laugh slices through your exhaustion. Neferir leans in the doorway, clutching a honeyed dormouse. Mother says red's your color, she giggles, eyeing your stained tunic. You resist asking which parent taught her to spot bloodstains, and whether they're both still breathing. The vinegar unravels a hidden thread, gold strands twisted around ibex wool. You recall the Nubian envoy's boast about tamper-proof cordage, right before his necklace mysteriously strangled him. Tonight's lesson: even trust dies during coronations. A sudden splash, hot liquid, engulfs your ankles. Neferir appends a wineskin labeled scented rainwater, its contents reeking of spoiled milk and myrrh. For the stink, she explains, bouncing toward the hallway. 5 heartbeats later, guards drag a sobbing laundress past your door. The puddle sizzles, etching leopard spots into the limestone. Turns out Hatshepsut's footbath ingredients include vitriol, an ancient form of bleach favored by poisoners. You make a mental note to thank the princess. After scrubbing your shins raw, dawn's first rays expose the sandals' true horror. Their soles hold teeth marks. Human, baboon. Neither answer improves your appetite for breakfast. You pick out a molar with Hatshepsut's ceremonial tweezers, the ones normally reserved for eyebrow grooming. Maybe it's symbolic. Maybe someone bit the Pharaoh. Maybe Thoth finds this hilarious. The embalmer's ledger downstairs will list 14 natural deaths yesterday, all coronation guests. Coincidence tastes worse than week-old ibex tallow. A scroll thwacks your shoulder, Senenmut's jagged handwriting detailing a routine sandal inspection. His ink glistens suspiciously, is that henna or hemoglobin. You memorize the 7 new security protocols, including a taste test for poisoned laces. The architect's shadow lingers too long, his sandals crusted with mortar, and what looks like eyelashes when historians argue whether Senenmut was lover or lackey. You'll remember how he pocketed your best all mid-prayer. The queen arrives unannounced, her wig slightly askew from hours under the peashent crown. Blood still rims her cuticles, though the gold leaf hides it well. She extends a foot, not for service, but for inspection. You freeze, aware your cleaning job could pass for a crime scene. Adequate, she mutters, tracing a nail over your hastily repainted lotuses. Up close, her breath smells of fenugreek and sleep deprivation, regal aromas for our modern candle makers. She drops a honeycomb into your vinegar bucket, gold oozing over sourness. Remember this when they sing of my mercy, she yawns, exiting as priests begin their hypocritical dawn chants. You let the honey harden before chiseling it out, a sticky amber lens warping the guard's spear tips. Somewhere beyond these walls, the Nile still flows, but its song drowns in the drip-drip of garnet dye sliding off Hatshepsut's sandals onto your future. Moonlight bleeds through papyrus screens. Your fingers flinch from Hatshepsut's grip, but her nails dig deeper. Thutmose breeds rebellion in Memphis, she hisses, wine-sour breath fogging your cheek. A scarab pendant dangles from her free hand, the stone carved with hieroglyphs no scribe would recognize. Modern museums display similar amulets, dismissing them as ritual objects without translating the inverted cartouches. You know better. She drags you toward the aviary, night herons shrieking as her sandal crushes discarded melon rinds. 2 guards slump against a lotus column, their throats slashed upward like festival goats. Your heel slips on warm sludge, thick and metallic. Hatshepsut chuckles at your gagging. Honey masks the stench, she purrs, kicking a shattered amphora oozing golden rot. Scholars still debate if ancient honey's antibiotic properties were known. Try telling that to flies swarming the guard's split jaw. The queen stops at a forgotten well, its pulley system rusted into immobility. She yanks a lever disguised as Horus's talon, and the shaft vomits stale desert wind. They'll say I built tombs, she mutters, thrusting a flickering lamp into your hands. The stairs stink of burnt mallow root, a scent you last smelled in Senenmut's secret workshop. That sun altar blueprint's accident, your blistered tongue from lacing poisoned sandals, says otherwise. Descending twists, your gut each step echoing. Hatshepsut's turquoise bracelets clinking against stone. The walls pulse with forbidden art, a Pharaoh smiting enemies, but the victim's face mirrors her own. Your lamp catches a smeared signature in red ochre. Senenmut's brushwork shakier than his temple designs. Historians will later attribute these heresies to rogue artists, never guessing the royal patroness paid in Nubian gold. The chamber takes shape, a granite cube glowing with phosphorescent fungi. Hatshepsut palms a hidden groove revealing alabaster jars labeled for incense. You recognize Sekhmet's seal, the lioness goddess dentists invoked during root canals. Inside, bandages, poisoned honeycomb, and a child's linen sack leaking black salt. The queen grabs your wrist again, this time pressing a blade to the pulse point. Swear by the Nile's drowned bones, she demands, a distant splash, water rising from unseen channels. The floor tiles depict Sobek devouring moons, their ceramic fangs grazing your bare toes. You mutter the oath, inventing 3 death curses when proper phrases fail. Hatshepsut's satisfied exhale stirs the jar's contents. A bisected scarab antenna floats to the surface. Some priests claimed swallowing beetle parts enhanced vision. Your cousin went blind trying it. Dawn finds you grinding lapis stones in the perfume workshop, blue dust etching your lungs. A junior bearer whispers about vanished guards. You hum Hatshepsut's favorite hymn through numb lips. The queen herself appears in the doorway, her wig now pristine, yesterday's bloodshed scrubbed from history, like a scribe's first draft. She inspects your pigments without comment, leaving a date cake infused with poppy milk on your grinding slab. That night, scrubbing ink from her ceremonial sandals, you find hieratic script tattooed on the inner sole. Seek the ibex-headed shadow, followed by coordinates matching Senenmut's latest temple site. The vinegar bath dissolves the message, but not before you memorize its curves. Months later, when they drag Senenmut's corpse from the Nile, you'll spot identical markings beneath his armpit and understand why Hatshepsut banned cumin from palace kitchens. The moon returns higher and colder as you repack the secret jars. A single drop of honey escapes, etching a path through floor, dust toward the well's hungry mouth. You let it fall, unsure if offerings require intent or just relentless gravity. Frankincense resin cakes under your nails, each step toward the mythic land of Punt grinding desert grit into raw blisters. Hatshepsut's sandals glint ahead, their electrum straps chewing fresh blisters over yesterday's scabs. You envy the Nubian porters, their calluses thick as crocodile hide, until their song about lazy river rats narrows their eyes at your linen-wrapped hands. 31 ox carts groan behind you, loaded with ebony logs and jars, labeled milk of Hathor, that slosh suspiciously. A baboon tethered to the queen's litter screeches, its fur dyed Hathor blue to match her toenails. Modern dig sites found similar dyed primates, dismissed as royal pranks, until you saw them rip a spy's throat open at dawn rations. The Red Sea wind steals your headscarf, exposing cheeks already peeling from salt spray. Soldiers bet dried figs on when you'll faint, but Hatshepsut's Sandal-Bearer doesn't buckle, not when the queen herself strides barefoot through flamingo-filled marshes, her soles cracking like overbaked bread. Historians still argue whether her famous Punt Expedition sought trade routes or a political distraction from Theban grumblers. You learn to sleep upright, sack of myrrh nodules as a pillow, slapping scorpions off your ankles on reflex. One guard swears frankincense smoke repels demons, until he chokes himself into a fit scribes will later call divine possession. You trade his discarded leopard pelt for a jar of tamarind paste. Gods help you, if that's really what's inside. Rainwater turns the harmattan dust to paste. Hatshepsut's sandals squelching with every regal step. Her blisters burst in sync with yours today. A grotesque rhythm matching the donkey driver's drums. The queen catches your limping mimicry, her smirk hidden by a ceremonial ostrich fan. That night, she leaves a lump of beeswax beside your bedroll and an extra ladle of rancid porridge. Sand fleas invent new tortures, your ankles swollen into shapeless lumps beneath the rope sandals Esau gifted you. The Cushite porter laughs till tears track through his henna tattoos. Soft river mud ruined you, he chortles, then shows you how to line footraps with sour fig pulp. Works better than the honey salt poultice scribe painib tried last flood season. You glimpse Punt through fever haze, thatch huts on stilts above mangrove swamps. The queen's new sandals sink into black silt, their golden sun discs now tarnished with mangrove muck. Chieftain Pharaoh presents a living myrrh tree, roots painstakingly potted in Nile clay. Later scrolls will claim Hatshepsut transported full-grown trees, neglecting to mention 83 dead saplings left rotting in your wake. Loading the ships near Suakin, waves slap the warped hulls like disgruntled crocodiles. Deckhands bet obsidian blades, on which sailor the incense smoke will hallucinate first. You're too busy lashing Hatshepsut's sandal chest to the mast, next to that damn baboon's cave, to care about Officer Nakat's friendly wager. The return voyage stinks of seasick livestock and fermenting down palm fruit. Hatshepsut suns herself on the prow, her sandals discarded, as she peels dead skin with a lappy scraper. You count 35 patches of raw flesh on her feet, same as your own. When she tosses the flayed skin overboard, you pray the Nile crocodiles recognize their queen's offering. Thebes shimmers at dusk, palace torches reflected in the fattened river. Triumphant horns drown out the porters' wheezing, but you hear the truth in their rattling chests. Hatshepsut strides ashore barefoot, her soles leaving bloody smears on the dock's fresh cedar planks. You watch workmen carve those stains into divine anointing marks by dawn, while grinding myrrh into the queen's night balm. Sleep claims you mid-mortar stroke, your blistered hands still cradling the pestle. The dream comes sharp. Scribe Painib's ghost force-feeding you fermented honey, while the Punt baboon diagrams star charts in mangrove mud. You wake choking on your own cracked laughter, the myrrh jar overturned, its contents spelling Hatshepsut's secret throne name in temple dust. Your palms still reek of fermented honey from last night's dream ritual when you spot the scorpion, a fat golden curl nestled in Hatshepsut's lotus-embroidered sleeping mat. Its stinger gleams like a misplaced jewel. And you freeze, knowing guards execute servants who wake the divine one with alarms. The blue baboon snores in its cedar cage, its dyed fur patchy from licking salt spray off Hatshepsut's discarded sandals. You remember the Kushate's warning about desert scorpions feigning death, and Sekhmet's priests using their venom to dissolve cataracts. Your big toe inches forward, nudging the mat away from the queen's bare foot. Hatshepsut murmurs in her wine-drenched sleep, a phrase modern linguists will translate as Amun's breath. Though you swear she's begging for mangoes, the scorpion hunches, its tail coiling as you snatch it barehanded. Cold chitin presses your palm, a sensation you'll later describe as holding a cursed date pit. Flint eyes lock onto yours in the oil lamp's guttering light. Historians still argue whether 18th Dynasty Egyptians kept scorpions as pest control. But you're certain this one's a paid assassin. Its stinger flicks, once slicing air millimeters from your thumb callus. You crush it against a limestone pillar, sticky innards oozing over a carved ibis. The baboon wakes, hissing through rotten teeth as you wipe gore on your already stained kilt. Hatshepsut's breath hitches, her hand drifting toward the dagger under her linen pillow. Morning brings no fanfare, just a clay pot of lotus salve left where the scorpion died. The queen's chief handmaiden smirks while rebraiding Hatshepsut's wig. But you catch the flicker of dried venom on her thumbnail. That afternoon, you trip and spill half her coal supply into a chamber pot. Nubian mercenaries start leaving palm wine by your door, their armbands jangling with silver scorpion charms. You trade the hooch for scribe Painub's new honey and salt poultice, which burns worse than the blisters ever did. The baboon gets the leftovers, its blue fur matted into dreadlocks. By week's end, Hatshepsut summons you during the Est festival chaos, her voice slicing through drummers and drunken viziers. She inspects your healed palm, still puckered from the scorpion's final thrash, then nods toward the obsidian bath. Scrub my heels, she commands, tossing you a linen rag soaked in tamarind vinegar. You kneel too slow, the vinegar stench blurring your vision, and miss her whisper about Senenmut's architects poisoning well threads. Her big toe presses your windpipe, just enough to bruise, as you scrape dead skin off her arch. The baboon cackles from its new perch on a lapis-inlaid couch. That night, a junior Sandal-Bearer tries stealing your scarab salve. You pin him with a pillow till his kicks weaken, then dump him in the baboon's cage. Let scholars debate whether the blue primates were sacred. Their urine stains on his linen wraps say plenty. Hatshepsut's next procession roots past your family's reed hut, its roof sagging under neglected papyrus repairs. Your sister waves a threadbare shawl, but you're too busy adjusting the queen's newly tightened sandal straps to meet her eyes. The baboon flings date pits at her, each thud against mud bricks sounding like traitor. You find a live scorpion in your bedroll 7 nights later, its pincers dipped in indigo dye. The Nubians swear it's a courtship gift. Hatshepsut's physician disagrees when treating your swollen ankle. But his leech jar, accidentally, spills over Senenmut's latest building plans. By flood season's end, the queen stops flinching when you oil her scars. Her laughter echoes through the bathhouse as you describe the baboon's ill-fated affair with a ceremonial wig stand. You don't mention the fresh venom sacs hidden in the soap niche, or how her grip lingers on your wrist like a forgotten promise. Senenmut's cough rattles like papyrus in a sandstorm, the air thick with powdered limestone from Hatshepsut's half-built mortuary temple. You kneel on blueprints torn by a fist or claws, tracing the architect's bleeding quill callus with bandages soaked in tamarind. His drafting table tilts, victim of a mystery draft that scattered granite shipment records into the Nile. He gestures at Dare El-Bari's scale model, its terraced gardens now speckled with his blood. Third pylon's off by a cubit, he mutters, though you count 9 wine jars emptied since dawn. Historians will later praise his triple colonnades, but tonight his breath reeks of failure and figs. Your fingers brush against hidden glyphs beneath fresh linen wraps, a crude donkey sketched near the queen's bedchamber shaft. Senenmut stiffens, then snorts, a laugh that ends in phlegm. You pretend not to recognize Hatshepsut's handwriting or the meaning of that particular animal symbol. Dust motes swarm the lone oil lamp, casting his hunched shadow across walls papered with star charts. He grabs your wrist, stained palms leaving comet-shaped smudges. They're substituting sandstone for granite in the Osiris statues, he hisses. Tell her. You nod toward the baboon claw marks on his doorframe, still oozing sap from yesterday's prank. His grip tightens, pressing your healing scorpion scar into the wood grain. The message is clear. Even architects need sacrificial messengers. Midnight finds you grinding malachite for his ink, avoiding the oxblood mixture whispering secrets in its jar. Quirky tidbit Ostrakhan texts suggest Senenmut's team used crushed beetle shells for red pigment. But you've seen the truth staining the palace drains. The architect's stylus scratches out prayers to Thoth, or maybe grocery lists, as wind sneaks through the cracked window. Fix this, he growls, sliding a palimpsest across the table. Beneath temple supply logs glows a child's portrait, crude but unmistakable. Your throat tightens at the nose shape. The same curve Hatshepsut hides under ceremonial gold. A sandstorm batters the shutters, flinging grit that etches lines into Senenmut's forehead. You bind his hand tighter, ignoring how his pulse matches the tempest's rhythm. He doesn't flinch when you accidentally spill vinegar over the portrait, dissolving ink into a Rorschach blot even Anubis couldn't decipher. Dawn approaches its first light, catching the chisel embedded in his desk. You recognize the handle's lapis inlay last seen in Hatshepsut's bathhouse. His blueprints whisper of secret tunnels beneath the royal bedchamber, while your memory replays a queen's nails digging into that same stone. The baboon's screech pierces the stale air, its cage rocking violently near the door. Senenmut hurls a stylus that misses by 2 cubits, confirming his sobering truth. You kneel to gather scattered star charts, only to find fresh bloodstains dotting the Sirius constellation. She wants it finished before the Hebest. He croaks, slumping onto a stool that groans like a dying ibex. You count 3 empty wine jugs before spotting the receipt for Nubian mercenaries, itemized between limestone purchases and consulting fees. Historians still argue whether Senenmut designed Hatshepsut's sarcophagus chamber as a love letter or a mathematical puzzle. You know better watching him scratch coordinates into his forearm with a rusted compass. Each number aligns with the vinegar and blood blot, now drying into something resembling a womb. As you leave, he presses a papyrus scrap into your palm. The hieratic script spells Ostrakhan disposal duty, but mirrored in the oil lamp's haze, the glyphs twist into burn this. The baboon rattles its cage bars, jasmine-scented smoke curling from the brazier where you obey. Your sandals crunch over discarded draft fragments, each failed calculation a breadcrumb trail to Senenmut's private altar. The scent of myrrh clings to his doorway, though you've never seen him light a single incense cone. In the distance, hammers clang against pre-dawn stone. The architect's shadow merges with the growing temple silhouette, a servant to his own genius. You adjust Hatshepsut's sandal-strap, still dusted with Der El-Bahri's limestone, and wonder whose chisel etches deeper marks into history's skin. The limestone dust from Der El-Bahri still powders your sandal straps when the wailing begins, a high-pitched keen cutting through market chatter like a sickle through papyrus. You freeze, one hand gripping Hatshepsut's gilded footrest, as the sound hooks into childhood memories of reed flute lullabies. 2 guards haul her past the pomegranate stalls, her feet painting scarlet trails in the dust. Your sister's linen shift hangs loose, the same weave you'd bartered for her wedding dowry 3 floods ago. Brother, she screams a word that cracks midway as a soldier's fist silences the vowel. Historians will later cite temple carvings boasting of Hatshepsut's bountiful reign. But your sister's gaunt cheeks rewrite history in real time. Honey cakes burn in your throat, this morning's generous royal ration, suddenly cloying. You count the guards' armbands, Thutmose's III's vulture symbol, replacing Hatshepsut's falcon, while your sister's captors drag her toward the granary, now boasting chains instead of harvest baskets. The queen's sandal digs into your thigh, a silent command to keep polishing. Filth spreads faster than locusts. Hatshepsut murmurs, adjusting her neem's crown as your sister's cries fade. Her big toe brushes your trembling knuckles, a mockery of comfort. You focus on the cartouche of renown dangling above her ankle, its hieroglyphs proclaiming Motker, beloved of Amun, in lapis lazuli. Quirky tidbit, those stones were imported through secret trade routes, paid for with eyebrow dyes taxed at 30%. A child's clay doll crunches beneath passing chariot wheels, its face smeared with fig pulp. You wonder if your niece still clutches her own, the one you'd shaped from Nile mud during last year's inundation. The queen snaps her fingers, her soul slapping your cheek to punctuate the order. Fetch the alabaster ointment. My heel cracks from walking through discontent. You pass the guard station's new murals, baby-faced Thutmose smiting enemies, Hatshepsut already subdued decades prior. The scent of fermenting grain wafts from barred storage rooms, except for building C12. That door stands ajar, revealing dates stamped with the queen's seal being poured into mercenary supply carts. Your sister's scream slices through courtyard gossip, a guttural sound no tax collector's whip could replicate. Guards double-check your palace badge, though they've known your face since you were both stealing lotus flowers from the royal ponds. Historians still argue whether the Great Famine under Hatshepsut was ecological disaster or political theater. But dehydrated lips don't care about state motives. You nearly trip over a forgotten offering bowl, its carved ducks swimming through spilled barley. Gold leaf promises of protection from want peel off the rim, sticking to your calloused soles. When you return ointment, jar clutched like a lifeline. Hatshepsut examines your tear-streaked face as one studies a leaky amphora. Saltwater erodes alabaster. She warns dipping her fingers into the jar. The salve smells of Dead Sea snails, a luxury that could have bought your sister's village a month's bread. Her thumb smears the ointment across your cheekbone, too rough to be tenderness, too deliberate to be accident. Shadows stretch long as they drag your sister past the final checkpoint, her fingers clawing at the birthmark you both share. The guards' laughter echoes off sphinx-shaped oil lamps, newly installed since Thutmose's latest birthday celebration. You drop the ointment, shattering it into pieces that mirror your family's fractured silences. Hatshepsut sighs, the sound of a scribe correcting a sixth draft. She grinds broken alabaster into your tear puddle with her heel, creating a mortar no slave rebellion could breach. Clean this before the Libyan delegation arrives, she commands. Then adds softer, we'll discuss your petition after sunset. You know the truth. Her private chambers reek of Nubian bodyguards by dusk, their laughter drowning out servants' whispers. The alabaster paste gleams under dying light, a miniature Jesser-Jesseru mocking your naivety. Your sister's final scream hangs in the air, a ghost already fading beneath hymns to the god's wife of Amun. Mice gnaw through spilled grain sacks, by midnight their shadows dancing where your sister once taught you the harvest shuffle. Hatshepsut's discarded sandal straps lie coiled like asps, while fresh scrolls arrive from the delta, each stamped with Thutmose's growing list of state priorities. You polish the queen's ceremonial sandals till dawn, praying the buffing cloth erases your fingerprints from history. The Nile's retreating breath leaves cracked mud patterns fissures mirroring the web across Hatshepsut's favorite sandals. You kneel beneath a star-leached sky, stitching palm fiber prayers into leather splits, while priests chant for floods that won't come. Historians will later uncover drought records from this year, but none capture how queenly footprints crunch like desiccated beetles underfoot. Ration carts arrive lighter each week, their axles squealing under Thutmose's. III's new military allocation seals. You trade your evening bread for a jar of tamarack resin, the only glue strong enough to hold her disintegrating souls together. Quirky tidbit workers at the Malkata Palace once used hippo fat as adhesive, until entire throne rooms slid into the Nile during summer heat. Hatshepsut's big toe pokes through a seam, a vulgar wink against your morning prayers. She kicks the sandal at your chest, a dismissal rougher than her Punt Expedition insults. Fix this before my counsel mistakes cracks for weakness. Her voice rasps like sphinx paws on sandstone, 3 nights since her last full sentence. You wonder if throat sores bother her more than dying crops, or the way embalmers linger near her chambers. Libyan envoys snicker during an audience, their eyes tracking the sandal's flapping sole as she walks. You lunge with a thread needle, mending the leather mid-stride, and nearly stab her Achilles tendon. Her hiss blends with Thutmose's advisors' murmuring omens, a word that tastes like treason and desert wind. That night, she orders sentry ibex horn for dinner, then dissolves into coughing fits that stain her kerchief rust-red. Golden scales from her ceremonial sandals litter the floor, each fleck a whispered failure. You crush them into eye paint powder, muttering spells even your grandmother called obsolete. Remember that silt amulet she buried beneath your birth hut. Its clay shards resurface, now washed up by the Nile's feeble tide, caked in algae, mocking your desperation. A sandstorm greases the air with grit, making every breath feel like swallowing embalming salt. Hatshepsut demands her cleated hunting sandals, determined to climb the festival temple steps without handrails. You line the soles with juniper sap for grip, but she stumbles halfway, her palms skidding across hot limestone. Historians still argue whether the drought stemmed from Amun's displeasure or a sandfly plague in Nubia, debates that mean nothing as you blot blood from her sandal straps. Fresh cracks split the leather overnight, geometric fractures matching drought seams in the delta's parched earth. You dream of stitching the Nile itself back together, threading papyrus ropes through riverbeds, while crocodiles gnaw your kneecaps. Wake to find Hatshepsut studying your sleeping face, her unadorned feet gray and peeling. The smirk she wore when demoting Senenmut's favorite architect is gone, replaced by lines deeper than afterbirth trenches. By month's end, only her left sandal remains intact. You line it with ibis down, plucked from temple offerings when no one's looking, and present it with hands raw from hide scraping. She slips it on, then hurls her bare right foot into a Marcotes wine amphora. shards embed in her heel as servants scramble, half loyalty and full fear in their darting eyes. Fetch the lapis inlay from my sarcophagus drafts, she rasps, wine blood dripping onto your cheek. Quarry records show those stones came from Levantan mines, same ones supplying Thutmose's tomb across the river. You return with the azure tiles, their edges sharpened by stonecutters' grudges, and kneel too close to her decaying smile. Your needle punctures a tile, then her heel, then your own thumb. Blood beads blend in a mosaic no artist would dare paint. She inhales like a woman testing smoke toes, curling around the newly decorated sandal. Fit for Jewet's hottest dunes, she croaks, rewarding your gasp with a gurgling laugh that shakes loose another scale from her wig. When the flood finally comes, it arrives as pink-tinged sludge from Upper Nubia, too late for barley seeds or legitimacy. Hatshepsut trudges through ankle-deep muck, her lone lapis sandal squelching, while courtiers whisper behind ostrich feather fans. You trail her with replacement footwraps, but she walks until the leather dissolves completely, until raw flesh meets fertile silt, until even your stitches surrender to the Nile's belated mercy. The boy's palms gleam slick, cedar oil pooling between fingers like liquid cowardice. As he fumbles Hatshepsut's funerary sandal, you slam his wrist against the embalming table, the clack of bone on basalt echoing through the preparation chamber. Oil preserves leather, not drowns it. Your whisper carries Senenmut's ghostly rasp, a tone learned during moonlit blueprint sessions you'll never admit to missing. He whimpers, a sound better suited to temple kittens than a Pharaoh's Sandal-Bearer. You shove a linen rag at his face. Blot, don't smear. Historians will later find oil residue in Hatshepsut's tomb, but none will note the citrus scent, betraying cheap Nubian stock instead of royal-grade unguents. His next attempt leaves streaks across the lapis, inlay your thumbnail denting his knuckle before he can ruin the scarab clasp. My cousin polishes better with leprosy-twisted fingers. A low blow, but effective. Workers at Wasit's embalming quarter once used fermented fig paste to clean jewels, until entire mummification batches attracted honey-hungry jackals. The sandal slips its golden thread, snagging on his sleeve fringe. You catch it midair, calluses grating against gilded edges, filed sharp enough to slit throats. Hatshepsut preferred her sandals lethal, a habit Thutmose's chroniclers will scrub from records faster than bloodstains. Your grip tightens on the boy's nape, forcing his nose inches from the sole's worn curve. Smell that. He inhales shallowly, confusion warping his brow. Lily resin, myrrh, hubris. You drag his finger along a groove worn by 20 years of power stride. Every pharaoh leaves footprints in their sandals, her stink of desperation and silt. Nightfall brings a jackal's howl, or maybe Thutmose's new architect testing acoustics in the gutted hall of annals. You light a rush lamp with embers from Hatshepsut's last ceremonial brazier, now repurposed for brewing lentil gruel. The boy jumps at shadows, spilling oil across decades of toe imprints, preserved in cedar dust. Why not use molds? He ventures, voice cracking like a nun's well in drought season. You snort, a sound your mentor perfected while watching apprentices fail. Mummies get molds. Queens deserve the hand that knows their souls. Your left pinky twitches, remembering how Hatshepsut's foot once fit perfectly between its crook. Dawn leaks through linen curtains, staining the boy's 7th attempt a sickly gold. His stitching mimics spider webs after wine, loose and ambitionless. You yank the needle free, split his lip with the thread spool, and savor his yelp. Pharaohs walk through eternity. Your job is to make sure their sandals don't trip on chaos. Historians still argue whether Hatshepsut's monuments were defaced under Thutmose's orders or his grandson's. Debates less pressing than the wobble in the boy's latest stitch. You force him to unravel every loop, prick by spiteful prick, until his blood dots the leather like carnelian embellishments. He finally produces a passable seam by midnight, hands steady only after you threaten to stuff him in Senenmut's old drafting case. The sandal glows under lamplight, its restored threads whispering of a queen who built temples while coughing into silk. You nod once and toss him a moldy date cake from your ration bundle. Tomorrow you begin. Sandal linings, he interrupts, smugness thawing the terror in his throat. You break his little finger with a linen-swathed mallet, a trick stolen from palace dentists. His scream harmonizes with looters chiseling Hatshepsut's name from the outer gates. Tomorrow you'll fix this and stop swallowing lies about legacy lasting longer than proper stitch length. He cradles his hand, snot dripping onto the oil-stained work table. You pocket the sandal, its weight familiar as your own shadow, and leave him weeping over spoils of a war he doesn't realize he's inherited. The corridor smells of charred thyme and fresh whitewash, and beneath it all, the tang of a boy's blood drying into history's cracks. The air tastes of burnt offerings and impending rain as you follow Hatshepsut up Karnak's newly carved steps, each limestone block still sweating quarry dust. Her sandals crunch undried mortar, that famous alabaster stride now slightly wider. You adjust the cedar box against your hip, its contents clinking like a physician's worst omen. She stumbles on the 9th step, a hair's width slip, gilded toes skidding over Thutmose's freshly chiseled cartouches. Priests boom hymns louder, their shaved heads glistening with sweat-diluted myrrh. You alone catch her thumbnail digging into your forearm, a queen's panic disguised as balance checking. Nightfall brings the first cough, wet and deep, as you kneel removing her sandals. The left sole holds a pebble from the temple ascent, and 3 strands of silver hair. Historians will later find cannabis residue in Hatshepsut's mummified remains, though none dare suggest she puffed reed pipes while drafting trade treaties. Bring the mistress of oils, she rasps, waving away your concern with a hand still stained Punt Expedition henna. The court's favorite remedy, honey mixed with crocodile bile, smears her throat like swamp sludge. You press a lotus root poultice to her fevered brow instead. A trick learned from Nubian tomb builders who swore by its anti-curse properties. Dawn reveals strands in her comb that outnumber the Nile's tributaries. Thutmose arrives unannounced, his own sandals squeaking with fatuity and fresh calf grease. Auntie's complexion rivals Memphis mold. He proclaims, banners rustling, in what scholars will someday call history's most awkward family reunion. You grind juniper berries into paste and pretend not to hear the air's swallowed chuckle. By flood season's end, she demands double padding in her sandals. Cole can't hide, ankles swollen like overripe dates. The physician priests prescribe ground mummy bone, which you accidentally spill into the sacred Nile. Fish'll appreciate the calcium. You mutter, stirring licorice root, tea strong enough to revive Osiris. The cough worsens during Bentresh's ritual. Hatshepsut sways mid-incantation. A dribble of pomegranate wine staining her breastplate. Courtiers stare at ceiling frescoes like they've suddenly mastered astral math. Only you notice Thutmose mouthing the prayers, next line. Decades before his official reign begins, historians still argue whether her death was natural or Pharaoh assisted. But you've tasted enough royal tonics to know poison from piety. You find her bent over palace, ledger's one insomniac midnight, fever sweat warping the papyrus. What use are obelisks if they outlive bakeries? She croaks, stabbing a quill at grain tax figures. It's the closest she'll come to saying, I'm dying. The sandal box feels heavier returning to her chambers, filled now with wilted chamomile stalks instead of jewels. Her final procession happens under a sandstorm's amber veil, priests shielding the god's wife with ibis-feathered fans, the ceremonial sandals you laced too tight that morning now dangle limp from the litter, unscuffed soles facing skyward like unanswered prayers. When the embalmers come, you bar their entry with a broken obsidian blade. 22 years of calluses prove sharper than their flint knives. They retreat to fetch guards, giving you time to slip your last gift between her bandages. The boys wept over sandal, now stuffed with river reed poems only crocodiles could decipher. Thutmose's coronation drums begin before her body cools. You lean against the palace's northeast wall, the same spot where her sandal once left a crescent-shaped dent in the bricks. A novice sandal-bearer scurries past, clutching oil jars with the terrified reverence of someone who still believes legacies are forged in temples, not in the silence between coughs. Heat shimmers above the embalming tent's bronze basins, your knuckles white around Hatshepsut's last pair of sandals. The embalmer's kid-goat brush scratches papyrus, recording each organ jar's placement. But you're too busy threading lapis beads through leather strips. Each stone winks like the Nile at noon, a shade you once watched her crush from desert beetles for her coronation coal. Funerary rites require ibis fat for lubrication. A junior priest announces his voice, cracking like fired clay. You ignore him, rubbing myrrh into the sandal soles instead. Let the sacred birds keep their grease. She hated the stench. Midnight finds you cross-legged in the tomb's half-built antechamber, palms mapping hieroglyphs, still warm from the chisels. Workers hum the Ramesseum stone movers' song that low-droned scholars will misattribute to ritual chanting. For millennia, your fingers find the hidden groove behind Nut's starry thighs, the one Hatshepsut had carved during Amenhotep's eclipse. The ebony box slides out, filled with flakes of her ceremonial nail polish, and 17 unmatched earrings. The first bead takes 3 hours to place. You nestle it where her smallest toe once rested, remembering how she'd kick that spot against the throne during tedious audiences, like scratching an itch through linen. She'd mock whispered once, right before sentencing a tax-evading vizier to Nubian border duty. Dawn leaks through tomb cracks as you stitch the final lapis strand. A shadow lingers at the entrance, Thutmose's new Sandal-Bearer, clearing his throat with performative urgency. Our Pharaoh requests the regalia be simplified. He stammers, eyeing your beadwork like it's a scorpion ready to strike. You hold up the sandals, light, catching their underside inscriptions, simpler than her heartbeat. The hieratic glyphs pulse faintly, a love poem to the Nile's flood season, only legible from below. The boy retreats, sandals slapping stone in panicked staccato. 11 oil lamps later, burning sage to mask the natron's ammonia bite. You press your forehead to her coffin's cedar planks. The embalmers swore they'd removed her brain through the nostrils. But you know that crooked septum bend from years of adjusting her sandal straps. That bend remains full of defiant cartilage and palace secrets. At the procession's climax, when priests lower her sarcophagus into the cliffside tomb, you slip the sandals onto Hatshepsut's bandaged feet. The lapis clicks softly, mimicking her habit of tapping approval during foreign envoys' speeches. Let future grave robbers wonder why a queen's souls outshone her crown. You're halfway down the causeway when the chisels start Thutmose's sculptors, already blunting her face from temple walls. A chip of limestone embeds in your heel perfect punctuation for 3 decades. Service. The Nile's evening breeze carries a familiar scent, soured wine and chamomile, as you empty the ebony box into the current. Coral-colored nail flakes swirl like miniature sunsets, until a hungry tilapia gulps down the last speck of her essence. Sleep claims you curled in a Pharaoh's skiff, your final dream haunted by her voice, hissing through tomb cracks. Always the overdramatic exit, she chides, though you can't tell if it's memory or ghost. And at this point, the difference barely matters. Rubble dust sticks to your eyelashes like powdered malachite. Each blink a gritty reminder of how palace walls shed faster than grieving skin. Thutmose's Sandal-Bearers march past, their ostrich feather anklets fluttering in perfect sync. as masons smear honey lime plaster over Hatshepsut's carved smile. You press deeper into the shadow of Senenmut's defaced statue, the granite crook and flail now reduced to blunt stubs. A new recruit drops his Pharaoh's spare sandals, incense, resin puddling on limestone. Pick those up before the scorpions claim them. You mutter too low for the overseer's ears. The boy stares at your frayed linen sash and the gold-wrapped strap peeking through its folds. Midday sun bakes the courtyard into a bread oven workers staggering under stone chunks that once spelled Modcare. Your fingers twitch toward the hidden straps, braided threads, each fray echoing whispers from the Punt Expedition's campfires. Historians will later debate whether Thutmose's vendetta was personal vengeance or political theater. But you saw the relief they're now smashing. The one where child Pharaoh Thutmose clung to Hatshepsut's hem during the Heb Est festival, his clay doll still tucked in your abandoned reed mat. The quarry foreman barks orders about recycling protocols, code for grinding her statues into road filler. A mallet cracks granite, Hatshepsut's diademed brow exploding into shards near your foot. You pocket a fragment sharp enough to skin figs and maybe peel away pride. Nightfall finds you in the old linen storeroom, blowing dust off a cedar box labeled Temple Festivities, Year 9. Inside lies 17 cubits of papyrus and one sandal strap blackened by myrrh. The hieratic script detailing Hatshepsut's Nubian campaign crumbles at your touch, but the strap's warped leather remembers her blisters from that march. Contraband collector. The new chief Sandal-Bearer blocks the doorway, his voice all Nile silt and suspicion. You straighten slow as an oasis date palm and toss him the fig-skinning shard. Handle that carefully, it's sharper than your Pharaoh's tongue. Dawn reveals a dozen fresh stelae lining the processional way, each chiseled surface denying Hatshepsut's reign ever existed. You count 7 Thutmose cartouches before realizing they've reused her sandstone blocks. Her hidden daughter of Ra glyph still pokes through plaster like a stubborn weed. Workers gossip about a mortar mix containing fermented honey, claiming it helps erase names faster. You spit on a stela base, watching your saliva dissolve lime like tears on coal. The strap's last gold thread snaps during the lunar eclipse, its frayed ends mirroring the crumbling causeway beneath your knees. Thutmose's censer bearers drift past their copper clappers, drowning out your whisper of Modcare. A passing priest frowns at your calloused hands, then tosses a bruised pomegranate into the dust. You bite into bitter seeds, juice staining the broken strap crimson, as sculptors carve Thutmose's face over Hatshepsut's on the final pylon. The stone sweats under their tools, or is it the ghost of her laughter condensing in the cold? Monkeys shriek in the aviary, their chaos preferable to the silence of a throne room stripped of her scent. The current chief Sandal-Bearer discovers you at moonrise, fingers tracing the last intact Modcare cartouche behind a granary rat's nest. He brandishes a chisel, then hesitates, eyeing your sunken cheeks. They're selling fried dormice near the workers' camp. He grunts, walking away too fast to see your smirk. You devour 5 mice crispy tails, and all before slipping into the decommissioned embalming tent. The embalmer's ledger lies open to Hatshepsut's entry, female, scrubbed out, and overwritten with His Majesty. Your stolen chisel hovers, then etches a tiny sandal glyph beside the forgery. By flood season's first week, gangrene claims your left foot. The physician prescribes a honey pomegranate poultice, but you trade his salve for a palm wine jug. Each drunken sip blurs Thutmose's new murals into Hatshepsut's stern profile, her sandal tapping the same rhythm as your slowing heart. The night your breath rattles like a sistrum, you crawl to the now barren sycamore where she once napped during solar eclipses. Your final act, wedging the gold-threaded strap into a termite-riddled root, its remnants destined to outlast both your bones and Thutmose's lies. Dawn finds only an empty wine jug and drag marks leading toward the Nile, workers already trampling the sycamore's shadow as they haul another erased goddess to the quarry. The Nile's current licks your shins, water whispering secrets older than pyramids. You clutch the sandal strap against your chest, its frayed threads tickling palm lines once calloused by royal leather. Behind you, workers' chants fade into ibis cries, Thutmose's name scattering like chaff over the floodplain. Twilight stains the river crimson, matching the wine stains on your tunic from last night's farewell binge. A crocodile glides past, ridged back, cutting the water like Hatshepsut's sun barges from the Punt reliefs. You remember her blistered heel the day she ordered those carvings. How your salve made her snort adequate through gritted teeth. Frogs croak a dirge as you wade deeper, cool mud squelching between toes. The palace never let you go barefoot with. The current tugs at your sash, then the strap itself, as if the river wants to play dress-up with history's leftovers. You release it, watching gold threads writhe like drowned snakes. Dawn fingers the horizon when your knees finally buckle, water cradling your chin like Senenmut once cradled blueprints for Jesser. Bloated lotus blooms bump your elbows, their pink petals mocking the ostrich plumes of processions past. A fisherman's distant laugh carries across the water, the same pitch as Hatshepsut's chuckle when you outwitted that scorpion. Your final breath bubbles through silt, each one erasing your name faster than Thutmose's masons. The riverbed swallows your body like it swallowed her cartouches, mixing servant ash with queenly dust in the mud. 2 millennia later, a French archaeologist's boot sinks into the same spot, his team unearthing a gold-wrapped strap entwined with mummified roots. Probably ceremonial, he declares, ignorant of blisters that once kissed the leather. Workers snap photos as termites retreat, carrying specks of linen in their mandibles like stolen dreams. Historians will later debate whether Hatshepsut's statues were toppled out of spite or political necessity. but not one mentions the honey-smeared thumbprint on a certain sandstone fragment. The Nile keeps its counsel, currents curling around forgotten truths, like a servant polishing sandals that no longer exist. The Nile's murmur weaves through reeds, a lullaby older than temples and time. Your story settles into silt, quiet as the tarnish on forgotten gold. Across ages, the river cradles every secret, every blistered heel, every muffled laugh, turning them smooth as pebbles in its palm. Moonlight traces the current's path, now gilding the water with memories that no longer sting. Somewhere, a child's fingers brush a museum case, feeling the warmth where your grip once lingered. Night swallows the last ripple, the world sighing like a servant, untying their final knot. Sleep comes not as a flood, but as the first drop merging with the endless stream.